And then Areej came to the World Storytelling Cafe and told the story without any support from Hend. And it's the story of Lolaja, Yusefi, and the Ghoul. It has got a ghoul. Are you sure you want to stay for this story?
Yes! Enthusiasm.
Please help me to tell the story. Kan je makan fe'adim mazaman. There was once, and there was not, a girl called Lolaja. Lolaja lived with her mother in a humble house. And Lolaja had a best friend, and his name was Yusefi. They were always together and always playing. Yusefi, today, Yusefi, let's go into the forest. Let's go and find the fruit that grows on the trees. Haven't we heard that the sweetest, best fruit of all grows on the trees in the forbidden forest? Lolaja, we cannot go there. Haven't you heard, my friend? We have been warned. There is a ghoul in the forbidden forest. We must never enter. Oh, but Yusefi, that sweetest, most delicious fruit. And she went on and on and on. And do you think Yusefi could stop her? She was willful and strong. They went just a little way into the forest, and already there before them was a tree that was bearing the ripest, sweetest, juiciest looking fruit. And before you know it, Lolaja had climbed into the tree and was plucking the fruit from the branches. And she was so engrossed in tasting, the sweetest, unimaginably delicious fruit, the fruit beyond what you can imagine. Well, perhaps you can imagine, because your imaginations are strong. And suddenly, there came, through the forest, the ghoul. The ghoul had long, sharp fangs, fingernails that curled, bright red eyes. And the ghoul leapt through the air and caught Lolaja from the tree and carried her at great speed away. And although Yusefi, that loyal friend, ran and ran and ran, he wasn't quick enough to keep up and lost sight of his dear friend as she disappeared in the claws of the ghoul. Yusefi searched and searched and searched but couldn't find her. Finally, he returned to the village. He told Lolaja's mother. And a search party was arranged. Everybody loved Lolaja. She must be brought back. And they all went, all of the villagers, into the forest, into the forbidden forest. And they travelled great distances, searching in every part. And did they find her? One by one, the villagers began to give up the search. Days had passed. Even Lolaja's old mother had lost heart, and she returned sorrowful to her home. Was there nobody searching for Lolaja anymore? There was one, wasn't there, who would never give up. And that was Yusefi, her true friend. He persisted, he searched, he went on through the forest to the darkest parts where there were no paths. He stepped over tree roots, pushed between branches, darker and darker and more fearful places. And there he came to an old man with a long beard that reached most of the way down to the ground. And the old man looked kindly at Yusefi. What are you doing in this part of the forest? And he told of his friend. Then she was taken by the ghoul. But it will be hard to bring her back. Have you got the courage? Have you got the courage, Yusefi?
Yes.
Yusefi said, I will bring her back whatever it takes. And the old man reached and plucked 3 long white hairs from his beard. Use these well, Yusefi. When you throw a hair behind you, it may protect you. Yusefi left with those 3 hairs and followed the instructions the old man of the forest had given him. He searched on and on and on between the trees until he came to a rocky mountain, and higher and higher and higher he climbed until he came to a great castle made of stone, but there was no way in. The heavy oak door was closed. Fortunately for Yusefi, the ghoul was away. Yusefi called, Lolaja! And there was no answer. So he called again, louder than before. Perhaps you will help me. Lolaja! Lolaja was far up in a high turret of the castle. What was that she heard? Again, Yusefi called even louder than before. Lolaja! Is it my friend? Is it Yusefi? Lolaja got up from the couch where she had been resting, there in the topmost part of the castle. But as she moved towards the door of the room, the couch began to call. Oh Ghoul, Lolaja is running away. Come, oh Ghoul. Well, she didn't stop. She ran out of the room and down the passageway. And as she ran down that long passageway, the windows in their frames began to rattle. And they called, Oh Ghoul, Lolaja is running away. Come back, oh Ghoul. And all the windows were shaking. But did Lolaja stop running? No. On down the staircases she ran, and as she ran towards the great heavy oak door, and she tried to open it, the door called, Oh Ghoul, Lolaja is running away, oh Ghoul. But finally, the door broke open. And she was in the arms of Yusefi, and the whole castle was shaking. And she ran with Yusefi, and down the rocky mountain they came. Do you think they're going to escape? Yeah. We'd hope so, wouldn't we? But now there appeared the Ghoul! The Ghoul had been summoned by the shaking castle, and the Ghoul came tearing after Yusefi and Lolaja, faster and fiercer than before. The Ghoul was fast, sweeping through the air. Lolaja, come back! And he was almost upon them, and Lolaja said to Yusefi, what can we do? Yusefi had an idea. Do you know what he did? He threw the first hair. Where did he throw it? Over his shoulder. And over his shoulder he threw it. And there appeared from that land sharp spikes like razors. And as the Ghoul ran over their spikes, his feet began to bleed, and he cried out in terrible pain. Can we have the crying out of a Ghoul, please? I didn't need it. And on they ran, and on, because the Ghoul's feet were being cut, but he leapt into the air. He leapt and he came after them, and he was coming closer, and they almost feel him behind their backs, and oh, he's going to catch us. Lolaja, come back. But did she go back? No. What can we do, Yusefi? Yusefi took the second hair and he threw it behind, and there appeared a vast lake And the ghoul plunged into the lake, and the ghoul began to swim. And although he was slowed down by the water, he was still coming after. Lolaja! And he climbed out the other side and was tearing after them, and they were nearly back at the edge of the forest, not far from home. And oh, they could feel the foul breath, they could smell it. Oh no, please let us be safe, Yusefi. Is there another hare? Is there another hare?
There is.
Yes.
And he threw it over his shoulder, and you know what it turned into? What do you guess?
A wall of trees.
A wall of
Fire.
fire! Yes! And the fire, the flames leapt high, and the ghoul was caught in flames, and the ghoul burned and was disappearing. But as he was turned to ash, the ghoul cried, "Curses be on you! May Lolaja be turned into a filthy dog, and Yusefi into an eagle that flies above. Never can they be together." And with that, the ghoul was gone. Hooray! Oh, but sorrow. There she was, a filthy, flea-bitten hound. And Yusefi, a fine bird, but separate. When Lolaja got home, she could not face her mother. How could she let her mother see her in this form? So she waited until darkness fell, until she knew her mother would be asleep, and she crept into the house, and all night long Lolaja, that filthy, flea-bitten hound, scrubbed and swept and polished the house until it was spick and span, and left, cold and hungry, in the morning. And her mother got up to find the house so fine and shining. How could this be? The next night the same thing happened. When Lolaja's mother found the house so clean and bright, she began to wonder. And the third night came, and the mother, she did not go to sleep. She pretended, and she hid, and she watched. And she saw this small, scruffy, filthy dog come into the house and start sweeping and scrubbing and polishing all night long. And the mother watched and waited and was curious. And in the morning she followed her outside, and there was the dog, and she saw up above, circling above, a wonderful eagle. And the eagle was crying down to the dog below. "Lolaja, oh Lolaja, how is it at home?" And she heard the dog answer, "I am cold and I am hungry." And at that moment, Lolaja's mother knew this was her daughter, and she put her arms around her poor daughter, transformed into a dog. And she heard Yusefi above, "Oh, come with me, follow me." And the eagle flew above the trees of the forest, and Lolaja's mother carried the dog between the trees, stepping over the roots, brushing past the branches until they came finally, in that deep part of the forest, to the old man with the long beard that reached down almost to the ground. And he looked at them with kindness. "The ghoul has been destroyed, and your spell is broken." And they transformed back into their true forms. Lolaja, that fine girl, and Yusefi, and they embraced each other, returned from the forest, the village celebrated, and they lived happily ever after. And this is the story I learned from Areej, a marvellous storyteller from Gaza.